Okay, so what if the very AI
Mm-hmm.
that's, supposed to be protecting our money is actually like a hidden threat?
That's a good question.
Yeah. And it's what we're going to be talking about today on the deep dive.
All right, sounds good.
And we've seen a lot of stuff in the news lately about AI, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And one of the things that's really kind of, come to the forefront, I guess you could say, is AI in banking.
Right.
So
Oh,
we're going to be doing a deep dive into the idea of AI in banking.
okay. Yeah.
And for this deep dive, we've looked at a number of different reports,
Okay.
analyses, different things that have been written recently,
Yeah.
and we're really trying to get down to the most important insights
Right.
about the risks that are involved with AI in banking.
Okay.
Because on the one hand, it sounds very promising, but on the other hand, uh, there's a lot of things that we need to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
And our goal is to help you understand those risks
Uh-huh.
and, more importantly, how to deal with them.
Right. Okay.
So AI in banking is not really like a futuristic thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
here.
It's definitely here. Yeah, you see it everywhere. I mean, even if you don't realize it, it's pretty integrated into the system.
Right.
I mean, like just think about, if you get like an alert on your phone
Uh-huh.
about a potentially fraudulent transaction on your debit card,
Right.
that's probably AI.
Yeah.
That's an AI-powered fraud detection system that's working in the background.
Right.
And even, those chat bots that you deal with
Right.
when you try to get customer service
Uh-huh.
online, those are getting so sophisticated.
Right.
A lot of those are AI-powered now.
Yeah. I mean, I've run into that myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, is this a real person?
Right, exactly. And even behind the scenes, there are all these algorithms,
Right.
that are being used to evaluate loan applications and things like that.
I
And
mean,
those are all AI powered.
So what exactly is an algorithm? I mean,
Yeah.
for people who don't really, understand
Yeah,
you
so
know,
basically you can think of it like a recipe.
okay.
It's a set of instructions that the computer follows.
Okay.
But instead of, ingredients and steps, it's like data and mathematical operations.
Right.
And these algorithms can be really, really complex.
Uh-huh.
They can have thousands or even millions of lines of code.
Right.
And they're designed to learn from data.
Okay.
So the more data you feed them, the better they get at making predictions and decisions.
And so these algorithms are the ones that are deciding whether or not people get loans or not.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, yeah, they're used to assess credit risk,
Huh.
to determine your credit score,
Okay.
to see, how likely you are to repay a loan.
Right.
And they're even being used to personalize financial advice now.
Wow.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
they can suggest investment strategies
Okay.
based on your specific financial profile.
So it's almost like there's this unseen force now,
Yeah,
controlling so much of our financial lives.
that's a good way to put it, yeah.
And the thing is, the banks they love it
Of course, yeah.
because it makes things so much more efficient.
Right, yeah, it's all about efficiency.
Round-the-clock customer support.
Yep.
They're telling us that, it's going to be more secure,
Right.
theoretically.
Yes. Supposedly, it's better at catching fraud, because it can analyze these huge amounts of data.
Uh,
And it's not limited by human, limitations.
right.
So, yeah, it's appealing from their perspective.
Right. But like any new tool,
Yeah,
powerful tool, I mean, we have to wonder,
exactly.
what are the downsides?
Right, what are the risks?
Yeah, and are those risks going to outweigh the benefits? I think that's really what we need to talk about.
Absolutely, and that's where things get a little bit more complex.
Right.
It's not all sunshine and roses with AI.
Right.
There are some serious concerns that we need to address.
Right.
So one of the biggest ones is bias.
Bias.
Yeah, bias in AI algorithms.
Okay.
And this has been a topic of conversation for a while now in the tech world,
Uh-huh.
but it's particularly relevant in banking because these algorithms are making decisions that have a real impact on people's lives.
Right.
So the thing is, AI learns from data.
Okay.
Right? You feed it a bunch of data, and it uses that data to create models and make predictions.
Uh-huh.
But the problem is, if the data itself is biased,
Right.
then the AI is going to be biased too.
Okay.
It's kind of like garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
So, for example, if you train an AI on historical lending data,
Uh-huh.
and that data reflects, existing biases in the system,
Yeah.
like maybe certain groups of people were historically denied loans
Right.
at a higher rate than others,
Uh-huh.
then the AI might learn to perpetuate those biases.
Even if those biases are unintentional or even illegal,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that the AI is intentionally trying to be discriminatory.
Right.
It's just that it's learned from data that reflects those biases.
So it's almost like it's baking those biases into the system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's hard coding those biases
Wow.
into the algorithm.
So that's a scary thought.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really scary thought.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern.
Because, we're talking about things that are really important to people, like getting a loan,
Right.
getting a mortgage,
Yeah.
buying a house.
Yeah, these are life-changing decisions.
Yeah.
And if those decisions are being made by biased algorithms,
Right.
that's a huge problem.
And it's not just limited to loan applications, is it?
No, not at all.
I mean, this kind of bias can creep into other areas of banking too, right?
Absolutely.
Like determining creditworthiness or even the types of financial products that are being offered to certain groups of people.
Right. It's like it can create this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy where if you're already disadvantaged,
Right.
the AI might make it even harder for you to get ahead.
Right, because it's learned from data that reflects that disadvantage.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so that's one big concern.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What else do we need to be thinking about?
Well, another big one is data privacy.
Data privacy.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the sensitive financial data
Uh-huh.
that banks collect on us.
Right.
I mean, everything from our account balances to our transaction histories
Uh-huh.
to, even our social security numbers.
Right.
I mean, it's a lot of really personal information.
Yeah.
And as banks rely more and more on AI,
Right.
they're often partnering with third-party providers.
Okay.
These companies that specialize in AI and machine learning.
Right.
And so that raises the question, how is our data being handled?
Right.
Who has access to it?
Uh-huh.
Are there adequate safeguards in place to prevent unauthorized access or misuse?
Right, because a lot of times we don't even know.
Yeah, exactly.
Know who these third-party providers are.
Yeah.
We're just trusting the banks to kind of take care of it.
Yeah, and, we're hoping that they have our best interests at heart
Right.
and that their security is top-notch. But, unfortunately, we know that's not always the case.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of data breaches
Right.
and security lapses over the
Yeah,
years.
and that leads us to another concern that's come up,
Yeah.
which is AI-driven fraud.
Right.
So this is a new one
Yeah, this is kind of a new twist.
because we usually think of AI as a tool to fight fraud,
Right.
but now we're hearing that the bad guys are using it too.
Yeah, exactly.
So how does that work?
Well, so the same capabilities that make AI good at detecting fraud
Uh-huh.
can also be used to perpetrate fraud.
Okay.
So, for example, AI can be used to identify weaknesses
Uh-huh.
in banking systems.
Okay.
It can analyze huge amounts of data.
Looking for patterns and vulnerabilities.
Uh-huh.
And it can do that much faster and more efficiently than a human could.
Wow.
And then it can exploit those weaknesses to gain access to accounts,
Okay.
to steal money,
Yeah.
to, commit all sorts of financial crimes.
It's like an arms race.
Yeah, it is kind of like an arms race.
They're using AI.
Right.
We're using AI.
And the bad guys are using AI.
yeah.
So it's a constant battle to stay ahead.
And it's only going to get more sophisticated.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then there's this thing called the black box problem.
Right. Yeah. The black box.
So you mentioned earlier about algorithms, making decisions.
Yeah.
About loans and things like that.
Right.
But what we're hearing is that sometimes even the people who created these algorithms
Yeah.
can't really explain why they made a certain decision.
Right. Exactly.
So it's like a mystery.
Yeah, it's like this black box where, the input goes in, the output comes out, but you don't really know what's happening in between.
So how does that affect, trust? I mean, if we don't know why a decision was made,
Yeah. That's a big problem for trust.
how can we be sure that it was a fair decision
Right.
or even a correct decision?
Exactly.
Right.
And it also makes it really hard to appeal a decision.
Uh-huh.
If you get denied a loan
Right.
and you ask why,
Uh-huh.
and the bank says, well, the algorithm said no.
Right.
We don't know why.
Right.
What are you supposed to do with that?
Yeah. It's like you're at the mercy of this mysterious black box.
Yeah. Exactly.
So with all of these concerns,
Right.
that we've talked about,
Yeah.
is our money really safe?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, it's a complicated question,
Uh-huh.
and there's no easy answer.
Right.
But I think the good news is that banks are aware of these risks,
Okay.
and they're taking steps to address them.
So what are they doing?
Well, for one thing, they're investing heavily in security. They're trying to make their systems more robust,
Hmm.
more resilient to attacks.
Right.
They're also working on ways to make AI more transparent
Okay.
so that we can understand how decisions are being made.
Uh-huh.
And they're exploring ways to strengthen data privacy protections.
So they're not just ignoring the problem.
No, definitely not.
They are trying to do something about it.
Yeah, they're taking it seriously.
But it sounds like it's an ongoing process.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely an ongoing process.
It's not like they've solved it.
No, not at all.
And they're going to have to keep working at it
Yeah, for sure.
because the technology is constantly evolving.
Right.
And the bad guys are always coming up with new tricks.
Exactly.
So what about us,
Yeah.
What could we do to protect ourselves?
Well, there are a few things that you can do.
Okay.
First of all, you need to monitor your accounts regularly.
Uh-huh.
Check your bank statements.
Right.
Check your credit card statements.
Okay.
Look for any transactions that you don't recognize.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see anything suspicious, report it to your bank immediately.
Okay.
Another thing you can do is use two-factor authentication.
Two-factor authentication.
Yeah, so this is where you have to enter a code
Mm-hmm.
that's sent to your phone or your email
Right.
in addition to your password.
Okay.
So it just adds an extra layer of security.
Right.
And then finally, be very careful about sharing your financial information online.
Uh-huh.
Don't click on links and emails that you don't recognize.
Right.
Don't give out your personal information to websites that you don't trust.
Okay.
Just be really cautious.
So it sounds like it's a combination of things, the bank's doing their part
Yeah,
and us doing our part.
exactly. It's a shared responsibility.
So as AI continues to evolve in banking,
Mm-hmm.
is it going to be a force for good?
Mm.
Or is it going to be a threat to our financial security?
That is the question.
It is.
And I think the answer is it could be both.
Okay.
It has the potential to make our lives easier,
Uh-huh.
to make banking more secure,
Right.
but it also has the potential to create new risks
Uh-huh.
and to exacerbate existing inequalities.
Right.
So it really depends on how we develop and deploy this technology.
So we need to be aware.
Absolutely.
We need to be vigilant.
Yep.
And we need to be asking questions.
Exactly.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been a really interesting conversation.
It has.
And I think it's given us a lot to think about.
Definitely.
So as AI continues to reshape the financial landscape,
Right.
we need to stay informed.
Yep.
And we need to be prepared for whatever comes next.
Couldn't agree more.
And that's the deep dive.
Thanks for listening, everybody.